why does the first $100,000 feel impossible? It's actually pretty simple, and it is so true. When people say that the first 100K is the hardest, and you could extrapolate it out to the first million, why that's the hardest, it's just math, basically, guys. We're going to be talking about that, and I'm back with another video. If you would, leave a like, subscribe. Channel is starting to grow. I really appreciate y'all tuning into the videos. And when you look at all the numbers, right, and getting to that first 100,000, it might take you 3 or 4 years of being really dedicated. I mean, with myself, it gets so trippy, dude, because I was up to like $85,000 net worth just within stocks and invested and everything like 3 months ago. And I was like, wow, like, you know, if everything keeps going, I keep contributing, I'll be there in like another 2 months. And now, like I said, that was like 3 or 4 months ago. And now I'm at 80,000. And it's just like, it almost feels like you're doing so much, but it's just not moving up. But really what you're doing is building up more stored time and energy, AKA money, even when it's down, so that when things do come back, you're able to explode right through it. And that's how after 100,000, it just starts to get way easier. And this is somebody that hasn't even reached that. I'm trying to tell you that because I've, you know, kind of ran some hypothetical numbers. And when you got 100,000 and you make 10% in the market without contributing $1, you're up to 110, versus when you have 10,000 and you make 10%, you make $1,000, which just is 10x the difference because you have 10x the amount of money in there. So if you have $1 million and you make 10%, well, then you're at 1.1. Like, that's a full year's salary, maybe 2 years for somebody watching this, just in growth by having your money work for you, which is such a cheat code, and it's so massive. I mean, people are scared. I know somebody in my life that they're too scared to invest their money. They're like, yeah, but the stock market is risky. And it's like, you got to define your definition of risk, because I would argue that it is more risky to just have your money be sitting in a bank account and have it not be growing. So then you're working forever trying to save dollars, and you're never going to save faster than the Federal Reserve can print money. You need it to be working for you. You can just go in some super safe, you know, S&P 500, Vanguard, the Fortune 500 companies, and just a whole index or a world index or anything like that. And, well, I better not get a head-on collision from this semi. You can just put your money in something like that, and things are gonna just look pretty good for you with like very low volatility, like something that's really manageable. Especially with something like that, you know it's gonna come back. You've seen these companies. I want to say I was looking at AT&T stock, because I had heard it. I watched, you know, a couple of YouTube videos from people doing exactly what I'm doing. I'm just kind of yapping, talking about financial things and mindset. And you would think AT&T is a big company, they're going to be around, but when you go all in on their stock, dude, you would have got cooked, like fried so bad. Same with Nike. Nike was the other one. If you had went all in on Nike stock thinking that Nike's not going anywhere, seems like a pretty safe bet, you are so down, it is not even funny. And that's why I'm a bit bigger now than I was on those broader funds, and especially ETFs. I think ETFs are great. Bitcoin, for one, because there is no CEO, there is no person to make that decision. They're not a company. They don't do any sort of marketing or, you know, schemes to try to get people to invest. But you have to have a different sort of mindset, I guess, when it comes to that. My point is that you don't want to, especially when you're below 100,000, I always felt like I was so behind, and I have to take these big bets to pay off. And some of them did. I mean, and they're just straight up gambling, because I don't actually care about these companies, but they would do really good. And then I'd have others that would do really bad. And now I'm just like, you know what, man, slow and steady wins the race. I don't have the capital to be taking these bets. I mean, if I had $1 million and I want to take 40,000 of it, 30,000 of it, and put it in these individual companies that have some speculation that might do really good, I might also lose all my money. that's one thing. But when you have $80,000, even just putting $1,000 in there, I mean, I personally think that's a pretty significant portion to be gambling with, because you are straight up gambling. You want to be doing some pretty safe stuff just to build that initial nest egg. And then as more time goes on, your money's compounding for you. You increase your income because ideally you're building up a higher skill set, or you're getting promotions at your job, or you're making something happen. You're not just eat, sleep, work, and repeat sort of thing. You should be making more income in the future to where you can maybe take those little bit of a gambles. But I'm kind of a big believer too, after you've been set in stone for so long with your strategy and you see it working, that you're not going to feel the need to do that anymore. Because it's only when you're initially starting out and you don't have any knowledge of the market and what things are going to do and how they work, that you want to keep chasing these quick pumps. When I was 18, I invested $2,000 in a stock and it doubled overnight. And I had a total of $4,000. And then I withdrew my money, and then I basically kept flip-flopping with that same $4,000 for like the next 4 years, because I could never make anything happen like that again. And at the time I thought, wow, stocks are awesome. This is pretty realistic. This could totally happen again. And it was some sort of crappy stock with someone of Biden's cabinet members. I saw a TikTok on it. I was like, you know what, let me put my full money in that. And it doubled overnight, and I was like, wow, I'm a genius. But I was never able to make anything happen like that again, and I was chasing pumps and quick schemes for the next 4 or 5 years. And I remember when that happened, I talked to my dad, and he said, that will never happen again in your whole entire life, where you put money into a stock right before close and the next day it doubles. That will never, ever happen to you again. And he's absolutely right. And I had just taken that with a grain of salt and been like, oh yeah, well, there's no way I got this lucky on my first ever stock pick. I absolutely did. So you need to just stay focused on your strategy, keep contributing to those accounts, keep just focusing on the month to month sort of thing, and stay disciplined and almost forget that it exists, and don't ruin your life over it. But also, you shouldn't have too much pressure in your head, because you know how these things work. I mean, yes, everything's going to go up forever. It's partially because it's more valuable. That's partially because of inflation. But you got to get to a point where you're so confident in your skill set and your ability to make money that you're not really too worried. Like if the market goes down another 30%, like what are you going to do, bro? You're going to sell everything and just be like, wow, this is cooked. I'm done. Especially if you are a younger man, you have your time horizon super set. Like, you should just be buying all the dips, have a little bit of reserves, and when things start taking a shit, triple down and launch the emergency fund in there and then build it back up, and don't be too much of an idiot. But there's money to be made when there's blood in the streets, and especially when you're at these earlier days of starting out, it's really just a matter of consistency and staying in the game. And it's going to take you, like I said, 4 or 5 years to get to that point where you're like, wow, I'm starting to actually notice this is kind of working. And then the next year, maybe you'll contribute another 30,000, you get 10% growth. You're up to 140 in just 1 year. Well, that's because you just stayed consistent. You're actually starting to see this money work. And then I just feel like you start to get to like an escape velocity the sooner that you can get to these numbers. But if you were up to at 20, let's just say late 20s, if you hit $1 million before 30 and you start getting that 10% return and you're making $100,000 in a year for doing nothing with very minimal volatility, very low risk, if you can do that before 30, man, you are getting to that escape velocity where your contributions are starting to become a fraction or just a smaller percentage of what you can even put in. So hopefully that makes sense for you guys and gives you some conviction to just stay disciplined with what you're doing and stop gambling. Just straight up, stop gambling. I know that, and I can tell you, especially firsthand, with some of the things that I've invested in, especially when the Solana meme coins were going crazy. Yes, I was doing that. Yes, I had some big scores. Yes, I could have made a ridiculous amount of money, but I always lost more than I won, because a lot of times you're not even going against real people. You're going against teams of people or algorithms and computer minds that are working 24/7. So don't be trying to chase quick pumps. Just focus on your skill set, keep doing you. And I appreciate y'all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe, do that whole thing, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.